Capturing Heartbeats, the eco-conscious films of Rob Coyer. Join us for an inspiring interview with visionary filmmaker Rob Coyer as he unveils his remarkable journey to wellness. Discover how overcoming mold related health challenges ignited his passion for eco friendly storytelling. Rob will share the emotional core behind his work, including his latest documentary project that uncovers the twisted tale of a spiritual movie during its creation. Prepare to be captivated as Rob explores the intersection of cinematic creativity, healing, and transformation. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness driven ride. Welcome, and let me share a little bit about the guests that we have here today. Rob Coyer is a pioneer in eco-conscious filmmaking, crafting impactful stories that champion sustainability since 2005. His passion for storytelling started in high school, leading to the founding of Coyer Creative, where he produces videos that authentically capture brand personalities through cinematic storytelling. His journey, marked by overcoming mold related health challenges, profoundly shapes his creative vision, making him a storyteller who connects deeply with heart and conscious. I am so pleased to welcome to our stage today, Mr. Rob Coyer. Welcome.
Thank you. Psyched to be here. This is awesome. I appreciate
It's
this.
wonderful. Yes, to have you come here and share your story. I've followed you on social media a little bit, and I always like to shout out to people who I really enjoy the content on social media because we're always watching things and taking it in, and it's very important what that is, right? It has to raise our vibrations and really have a best impact in our days. So let's get started by sharing a little bit more about you so the audience can get to know you more.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I've been obsessed with film and video since high school. Starting out making little videos with friends and stuff like that, and I went to film school, and then I ended up getting involved in green, filmmaking kind of like world through I started getting into commercial video work, and I got hired by Seventh Generation, which is a leading eco cleaning company, and uh, and through them I ended up producing hundreds of videos for them, and uh, and that ended up affecting my life. I made a documentary about a horrible hurricane in Vermont that happened in 2011. That was really devastating. And then I also write scripts, and inspired this TV series about climate change that I was trying to pitch and get made for. I'm still working on trying to get pitched and made anyway. But yeah, so I've just been obsessed with cinema like my whole life, and yeah, it's been nice. It's been a fun process following all that.
You know what I appreciate about this is similarly to what I was trying to spit out earlier about the content that comes through our feed, right? And having it make a big difference and impact on the way that we think, the way that we do things, purchase decisions, right? I like to call it voting with out. Because you had that experience of working for Seventh Generation, more of a health conscious company, it was really at the forefront for you to start thinking in that direction because you were making all the creative content for them and advertising for that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, before that, I was like slightly aware of how important the environment was and what was going on with pollution, all that kind of stuff. But definitely making videos for them much more radicalized me to those ideas, and I don't know if that's the right word, but it transformed me into being much more aware of all of that. And then it was kind of cool because like as I was learning more about it, I was making more and more videos for them, and they were blossoming as a company during that time period. Like they started, I think when I started making stuff for them, they had like 20 or 30 employees, and now they have like 200 or more employees. Um, and there was this, yeah, there was also this time period where like um, it wasn't like green, the world environment wasn't that popular, and so they were one of the businesses that helped popularize the movement, and just like to more into a more mainstream kind of uh, realm, I would say. Um, so yeah, it was cool, like going through all of that and like the influence it had on me, and then it inspired my own work in terms of the documentaries and the writing and stuff that I've done.
Rob, what do you have some moments that you had that were very pivotal for you? Those really aha moments of what changed the direction for you?
Uh, um, well, I always think like the like like I mean this is kind of interesting way to think about it, I guess. Like the in terms of for Seventh Generation, like their brand story and their brand like themes are in the name of the company, Seventh Generation, and it comes from an Iroquois quote. Um, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's like, you should be thinking about your every action you do. You should think about how it's going to impact the next 7 generations. And so that like if you take that into the realm of like pollution and the environment and stuff like that, the whole world would be operating much differently if they were thinking about the next 7 generations. So that's the first thing that stands out to me. It was like just the name and how like pivotal it is to the whole concept of the business. Always like worked really well for me and helped remind me of that sort of concept and that mission. Just like being much more mindful in everything you're doing. And then yeah, and then in terms of like thinking about because the work I do is like commercial videos for companies, and one part of that can be working with your brand story and how to create a resonating, emotional, thematic theme that like represents your brand and also like helps you get more out into the world. And so I think that's a great example of like the use of that.
I feel like when you're talking about thinking a little bit deeper into the cause and effect of things and how long lasting it makes me think of the butterfly effect, right? The butterfly flaps its wings and it does it in such a way that it causes a hurricane later on. Now that may be far fetched, but it's just an idea of our decisions and impact that we have and can create this domino effect, right? And so what is it like for you? I keep losing my microphone. What is it like for you when you guide your the people that you work with when they are creating their story form? You have this bigger picture that you present to them because of that experience of how you think.
Yeah, well, it's like Um, yeah, I mean, we try and figure out how their brand story can just be a deeper understanding of them as a company and what they're trying to do in the world, and then yeah, it's like looking at it either thematically or emotionally. Like, what's the emotional core of your brand story, for example? That's
Mm.
another way to look at it. And like with Seventh Generation, it's like a lot of it is basically protection. It's like safety, protection, nurturing. Um, and so like during those like those well whatever during that time period, like it was mainly like moms that were like their biggest customers basically. And like they were thinking about their kids, mom, so like that's the next generation, thinking about the 7 generations out. And so like they wanted to have clean products that weren't toxic, that weren't dangerous for their kids, that wouldn't potentially possibly give their kids cancer or something like that. And so so like that informed a lot of the messaging and just the style of the videos. It's like this emotion of like protection, nurturing, caring. and then another benefit that happened for them is that those moms end up becoming ambassadors for the brand, basically, because that's where it goes into, like, for their example anyways, like a mission driven business.
Why is it important to get the story to bring in that emotion piece?
Because that's what audiences resonate with. Like when you watch a video, it's usually the emotion that lingers with you afterwards that's gonna like last with you and like make it a memorable experience for you. Like whether that's humor or like fear with like horror movies, I guess you could say. I don't know.
That's an emotion.
Yeah, on the exact opposite spectrum. But yeah, but then with like commercials and stuff, yeah, it's like if you can find the emotional core of the story and bring it to life as powerfully as possible, then you're much more likely to leave an impact and a lasting impression upon the audience that's watching it.
To date, what is your favorite project that you have worked on that has truly brought a deep emotional response from your audience?
Well, this documentary I did called Strength of the Storm was about Hurricane Irene in Vermont. It devastated a large part of the state. Yeah. And we looked at it through the lens of poverty, actually. And so we focused in on a mobile home community in central Vermont that everyone lost their homes. The whole community was flooded out. It was in like 3 feet of water, basically. And in that, yeah, so that was a very powerful story. And what ended up happening was they ended up getting basically ignored by a lot of people that were trying to help in other communities and things like that, and ignored by the state. And so they ended up coming together and basically protested and raised awareness about their issues. And then eventually the governor came in and helped them out with what was going on. So it's sort of
those stories. Yeah, I can only imagine how that impacted you also. And I would love to know that aspect of what you really, how your perspective changed with that experience. And it's fascinating to me that, we don't really see the impact of how things are addressed until, big things happen. And then you see the response of certain people, and then you realize, okay, there could be some issues in this area, and maybe we could do things better, next time or differently, right? So what was the biggest thing that changed your perspective during that experience for you?
Well, there's a few different things, I guess. It really showed just how prejudiced, like, a lot of people are against people of lower economic incomes, and that it's like it just glaringly showed that, like there was all these volunteers that were coming out to help people with like flooded homes and stuff like that, and none of them would go to the mobile home park communities. There, I don't know why, but and then that went all the way up to the state, where like the state wasn't helping them in the way that they needed. So that was really interesting, how like the flood itself, like the devastation of that, kind of like laid bare like these inequalities and things like that.
Yeah. Did you yourself feel uncomfortable in those areas?
I did initially, like concept, I guess, because yeah, I mean, like I haven't spent much time in like mobile home communities, but then like once I was in there and I met them and became friends with the people that are in the movie and stuff like that. Like it's as one of the characters in the movie says, like there's really no difference between someone that lives in the mobile home park and someone that lives in a $400,000 house. It's just the house basically, or the amount of money. But
Yeah, that's a beautiful perspective. And so, there must be this beautiful relation piece that you get to have in your position. When you're creating something, you have to have this intimate, be on this intimate level with the people in order to really get what you're trying to draw out of, and for the audience, because you're in this creation mode. It's like I want to create this sense of empathy, this sense of understanding, and really bring that emotional impact to your audience. And I think that's incredibly fascinating. Uh, you put yourself into positions that are uncomfortable quite often, I imagine, especially when you want to get to the root of something that is happening in real time. And wonderful that you have done that. We're going to move into our first commercial. And when we get back, I can't wait to hear about your own personal health journey. Stay tuned. Are you ready to take control of your ride to wellness? Rev up with Driven Living. Visit www.drivenliving.com and buckle up for a journey. Get exclusive access to our Wellness Driven Life Show guest portal, where you can dive deep into the minds of our esteemed guests. Sign up for our newsletter and get insider scoops on these distinguished personalities. It's like having a backstage pass to their life-changing wisdom. But that's not all. You'll also receive a free hug. You heard me right, a free hug. An enlightening ebook from the Driven Living team. Discover the science-backed benefits of hugging yourself. It's a fill-up for your wellness tank. Because at Driven Living, we believe in fueling your journey to wellness, both physically and psychologically. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.drivenliving.com today. Welcome back, everyone. Here with us is Rob, and sharing his journey of being an incredible creative and bringing to light really the essence of emotion in documentaries and what that's like, and sharing experiences of how it's led to be more conscientious of how we move through our environment and the things that we do that create a domino effect, so to speak. So Rob, what was your own personal health journey? Because I know that you aspect of yourself where you needed to address health right away.
Oh yeah, yeah, that happened. I think it was 2019. Basically, I had this issue with sort of like what Western science would call like a mold allergy throughout my life, like different, at different times, like it might flare up or go down or whatever. Like if there's like a musty closet, it might have bothered me sometimes, sometimes not. And then I ended up moving into a house that had like a dirt floor basement, and it was kind of musty smelling. That was like coming up from it all the time, and that exposure gave me like a whole bunch of symptoms and flare-ups. Anything from like like wake up feeling dizzy and drunk and like, but I wasn't drinking, and just like a lot of anxiety, depression, and brain fog, a whole bunch of like strange symptoms essentially. And what it set me up, it like, and the most difficult one was after I left the house. I had like this hypersensitivity to like any amount of mold in a building. And so like
Mm.
I think I went through, it probably was like 100 in total, but like tried to find like probably like looked at like probably like 100 different apartments, houses, different things like that, and they all were like bothered me and created symptoms in me.
You developed a superpower.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I am the human mold detector.
Well, that's wonderful though, because I mean, you move into a place and you don't want to find out that there's mold 6 months later or whatever, when it could potentially be life threatening and contracted, etc. So I think that, like I said, you developed a superpower. It's
Yeah,
definitely a benefit.
that's cool. Yeah, thanks for putting it like that. Yeah. So yeah, so eventually, I mean, it was a really crazy experience because I couldn't like figure out like how to deal with it really, like there's nothing within like Western science that understands these kind of like strange chronic illnesses and stuff. And so I went on this basically multi-year long exploration kind of like journey, trying to figure out how to like solve it, and trying all kinds of different things along the way. um, and what it ended up like, one of the concepts was just like basic like mold avoidance. And so like I ended up getting a van and going to the desert and just like having total control over my environment all the time so I could know that there was no mold growing, and being in a super dry environment. And yeah, and so yeah, it was just like this big kind of like journey. And then ultimately what I ended up learning through that whole process was about like somatic healing and the concept of uh, basically like how trauma like can linger. Like you have a traumatic event, which was like this whole mold like explosion reaction in me, which made it so I couldn't like live in houses anymore, basically. And then, but the trauma is like what happens afterwards, is like the stories related to it, or the way it like interacts with like um, unresolved stuff from childhood that's kind of like still there. And so
Mm.
through working with somatic therapists and just learning more about that concept of like how to become more in touch with my emotions and become a more like embodied person, that was able to like heal the rest of the symptoms. And it's like yeah, it's like PTSD basically. It's like the molding happened, and there's like some reality to that. Like there's some molds that are super dangerous, there's some molds that aren't actually. There's mold like everywhere in our environment. uh, there's something like 30 molds, and 4 of them are dangerous to humans.
Wow.
um, but then the other part of it that I had to learn about and heal was like this sort of PTSD from the experience, like the trauma of it. And so that's still like an ongoing process. But
Sometimes I feel that our souls, I don't know what the microphone is doing. Their souls are really guiding us, uh, even though it feels awful at the time, but they put us in situations where we need to expand and grow from, right? And so if it wasn't for becoming ill and not living in homes where you're venturing out into drier climates, more open space, you would not have gone within. And I think so much power is when we get to points in our life and we start to go within. And like you said, learn more about ourselves and those deeper traumas that need healing.
mhm. Yeah, it's like it initiated a much deeper healing journey that has had a lot of benefits for me, and a bigger transformation. Like now I meditate and I, do yoga and like, um, do all these things that are much like healthier than the way I was living my life beforehand. Um, and yeah, it's definitely had a big positive impact ultimately.
Speaking of that, would you please share with us what are the habits that you have now because of that experience? And, I know you listed a few. I meditate now, I do these things, but what does your daily life look for your overall well-being?
Well, it's like trying to get and be in nature, trying to have movement every day, like yeah, doing as much like well, yin yoga has been really helpful. It's like when you hold stretches that long, which is like at least a minute and a half, I think, is like the minimum. The stretch goes into like your fascia and like the inner parts of your body, and you can actually release stored and repressed emotion just through doing stretches like that, just through doing yin yoga. So I do that, and I do transcendental meditation twice a day, and then with the somatic work, there's a lot of different practices that they encourage doing, like different ways of like soothing your nervous system and trying to get your nervous system back into a calm parasympathetic state. So yeah, those are some of the things.
Those are really good practices to have. And how has that, Rob, changed the direction or the way in which you know, work with your clients?
Well, I think it's changed. I mean, it's changed like the kind of work I'm interested in, or kind of people I'm interested in working with.
Mm.
But then it also like, I do have more to offer in terms of like, if they're acting like super stressed out, maybe I can help them, calm down a little bit, and like, if that's causing disruptions to the project and stuff like that. But I think mainly, yeah, it's just like the change, like the direction of like the kind of people I want to work with and that kind of stuff.
I think profound because that oftentimes comes, in alignment. We start to have more boundaries and barriers on who we want to have, who we're working with, who we want on our side, who we want on our team. And, they say, we're the sum of the 5 people or 10 people or what have you. And so I think when you're starting to go through this transformation, this evolving of self, we have more recognition of that, and we have uh, more ability to be able to say, "This is what I want, and I'm going to make that happen because it matters to me."
Oh, I think your mic cut off.
I
But yeah,
apologize. Keeps cutting out today.
that's fine. Yeah, that was definitely part of the process, is like trying to be more mindful about like the kinds of nervous systems or personalities that I'm surrounding myself with to encourage more like a healthier lifestyle and a healthier like environment to like be living within.
Rob, I wanna make sure that where to find you, and so we've got it displayed on the screen. The website is www.robcoyer.com.
Yeah.
Share with us a little bit what you're most excited about creating next.
Oh, well, oh yes. Well, I'm working on a documentary which is a really fascinating, complicated story about a Ponzi scheme that happened in Vermont, and um, that was a really interesting the way it even came about, because I was hired as an editor originally, working on this film about spirituality, um, and then it turns out that the director was involved in this Ponzi scheme, and yeah, so his name was Mac Parker, and he was running this Ponzi scheme in Vermont, and they raised something like $20 million to make this spiritual film. In reality, they actually spent maybe $1 million on the film, and then he had a spiritual guru who was kind of like a hidden silent partner in the project. None of the investors knew about him, and he was Mac's guru, and he was basically like, he'd been through a kind of a 10-year long experience of him being like a guru and a guide to him. But in reality, the guy was like actually like, you know, deeply messed up and like narcissistic, and was like, you know, he's like kind of like emotionally abusing Mac and manipulating him like a cult leader would do. And so eventually both guys went to jail, and uh, Mac was in jail for 3 years. He's out now, and Lou's out as well. Lou's the guru. But yeah, like right before Mac went to jail, we did a bunch of interviews with him, and then I did multiple interviews with him after the project. It was like follow-ups. But yeah, that's a little bit about that.
I think that that's absolutely fascinating, and I love that you get the opportunity to show some exposure. There's so much noise out there, and we all know this, especially those who are in the realm of you know, helping other people and self improvement, self development, all of the things. And there's just so many, and you have to trickle through and really understand who's in it for the right reasons, right? And so I think that it is very important when you bring to the forefront things that aren't so great and that people can watch out for. They know where to find the red flags and to move on to something else. So I think it's beautiful that you're doing that. And we have in the description a link that you can support Rob on creating this documentary of exposure, which is, I think, really, really awesome. So please be sure to check that out. Rob, thank you so much for sharing all of the things that you're doing, that you're a part of, your own personal journey, and being vulnerable with that experience. Because, again, like you mentioned earlier on, that's how we relate, is when we go to those emotional pieces of ourselves and our story, people can say, me too. And so, is there anything else that you want to share today with our audience?
No, I mean, yeah, if you want to donate to the project, that would be awesome. And if you want to make some videos, check out my website. But yeah, I appreciate being on the show, and it's great meeting you and talking to you about this stuff.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob, for being our guest on the Wellness Driven Life Show. Thank you so much to our audience for being here, because without you, the show wouldn't be possible. So goodbye for now, and we will see you